It all started one night. Bodies were lying everywhere, bridges were destroyed, and the air was filled with mana particles. In the midst of this chaos, someone was running as hard as she could. It was a girl. She was being chased by people who didn't want to let her and her partner go. But suddenly, someone ordered them to stop. The guards turned around in bewilderment. It was Continental Master Zhang Richu. He said that the chase would only lead to senseless bloodshed. The most important thing right now was to keep consciousness. Richu looked at the ground where Kim Si-hyuk's decapitated body lay. With a smirk, he noticed that Si-hyuk wasn't bad for a man from a small country. But no more than that. How could someone like him, a hero of a fallen kingdom, think he could compete with me? He shouted out. Then, with a sinister smile, he declared that he, Zhang Richu, was the one who was worthy of becoming a godlike figure. He raised his head and said, "See, I, Zhang Richu, have kept my promise." At that moment, red thunder rumbled from the sky, and a giant eye appeared in the sky. The eye opened completely and said, "Yes, you did it, Richu." Richu's face contorted with greed, and he demanded that the eye fulfill its promise. He wanted to ascend as a constellation of Earth. His voice echoed as he shouted, "I must become celestial." The eye agreed. The unknown constellation requested the system to create the 274th Earth constellation. Rich smiled as he looked at the system, but the system reported that he did not qualify. Richu froze in shock. The system expanded the search and found that the person who qualified for that rank was already dead. Therefore, the arena on Earth number 274 no longer made sense. The protective rights to Earth number 274 were revoked, and the galaxy arena ended. Richu was furious. His greed turned against him. He accused Big Eye of cheating. "You said that if I killed Kim Si-hyuk, I would become heavenly." The eye calmly replied, "I kept my word and requested your ascension, but you didn't meet the requirements." Then thunder from the sky descended upon Richu and his men, injuring him. Richu called the constellation a sneak, but it didn't matter. The unknown constellation laughed, savoring the moment, and declared that it would devour Richu's world. Meanwhile, elsewhere, the girl who was being chased opened the door with force and shouted, "Kim Si-moon!" She saw him on the floor, surrounded by books and alchemical materials. "Are you sitting quietly while the world is falling apart?" she shouted. Simon, the protagonist of the story, calmly replied, "What else is an alchemist supposed to do if not practice alchemy?" and continued reading the book. The girl was shocked at his calmness, then tossed him the bag and said, "Take it." Simon was surprised to see what was inside. It was an elixir whose level was unknown, a legendary product of alchemy, a universal medicine that was said to work even on gods. Simon, with a tremor in his voice, asked, "What happened?" "Isn't it obvious?" she replied. "As you expected, that scoundrel Yang Richu betrayed your brother." Although Si-hyuk knew how to use the elixir, after the guild members died, they handed it over to me. Si-moon sighed, calmed down, though his weak body looked like he was about to die. The girl said that now she had paid him back. Simon sighed and asked, "Are you still holding on to it?" She replied, "Of course. In a way, my revenge led to your brother's death." But Simon objected, "Your revenge was just. Those people deserve to be punished. My brother's death and your revenge are different things." As she got ready to leave, Simon stood up, surprised at her haste. "I'm going to go fight," she said. She added that she had seen that scoundrel Zhang Richu cause something incredible to happen, but Si-moon didn't understand what she meant. "Did you see the system's announcement about the removal of protective rights?" she asked. Si-moon replied, "Yes, I was shocked. They said it was because the constellation qualification holder died." Si-moon explained that if anyone could have that qualification, it was his younger brother, Kim Si-hyuk, the holy swordsman. "I know that because I'm the only one who has seen my brother's status screen." The girl said, "No matter what happens, it's going to get worse, and you will definitely die. For this place is not safe either." Simon asked, "Then why aren't you running away?" She smirked. "Running away is not my style. I have no reason to run anymore." Before leaving, she reminded Simon to drink the elixir. The great holy swordsman gave his life for it. Simon sarcastically replied, "It was originally mine." As she left, she mentally thanked Simon for everything. Si-moon activated the status screen. The screen showed that he had no title, his ability was magic, and his country was the Republic of Korea. He was a level 1 player. Strength, 1. Dexterity, 1. Health, 3. And mana, 0. His ability was Mana Inability. He had 5,000 achievement points. Simon sighed disappointedly as he looked at his pitiful stats. But it was pointless to worry. He needed a source of energy for alchemy, and here it coincided with his goal. Upon awakening, it was the culmination of all his efforts. He wouldn't have even dreamed of it if he hadn't received the emerald tablet. Opening the elixir, he thought, what if there's only poison inside? Well, at least my mind is still holding on. And I have an elixir that is the pinnacle of alchemy. He was able to create it. As he poured the elixir onto the tablet, he felt gratitude towards Shi Hyuk and the girl Malsuk. Thanks to them, he had achieved his goal, though he wasn't sure he would survive in such conditions. But alchemy is based on the principle of equal exchange. He began the basic process. Mana raged in the magic circle, but Simon held on. Then, there was a powerful surge of mana that broke through the roof and rushed into the sky. Now, with the magic circle damaged, in the center lay a broken tablet and a round object probably created from it. He received a message that he had successfully created the mythical product. Simon was happy. He received several messages. He received 5,000 achievement points and created 2 mythical alchemical products. He received the title of Alchemy Pioneer, his first title. The stone created from the tablet was called the Philosopher's Stone. Its level was unknown. It could be bound to a user. It was a mythical product of alchemy, capable of transmuting anything if the principle of equal exchange was followed. Simon looked at the stone curiously, realizing that it was becoming attached to its master. He scratched his hand and poured the blood onto the stone. The stone absorbed the blood, recognized Simon as its master, and began to react, which surprised Simon. The stone then entered his chest with force. Suddenly, a human head pierced the roof. Simon was horrified to see that it was Malsuk's head. The constellation that had killed her was surprised to see the Philosopher's Stone in Simon's possession. It said in disbelief, "Even after seeing it with my own eyes, I can't believe it." Simon trembled in fear at the overwhelming presence of the constellation. Constellation thought, perhaps the power of the stone is that it can create a new constellation. I did not expect such a harvest. Simon realized that both his brother and Malsuk had died because of this unknown constellation, but there was nothing he could do because of his inability to mana. He then received a message, synchronization complete. The Philosopher's Stone has been fully activated. His mana parameter turned into a unique parameter, the power of transmutation. He also received an achievement for obtaining the unique parameter. Simon didn't understand what it meant. The Philosopher's Stone reacted by telling Simon that he could transmute anything he wanted. Gritting his teeth, Simon thought about what he wanted most: revenge on Constellation. The energy in his body was bubbling, causing the Simon to feel excruciating pain. With his desire in his mind, the system began searching for a suitable target in his categories. The search yielded no results, so the system decided to use the power of transmutation to expand the search area. When the search was complete, the system informed Simon that the most suitable target was an unknown book. The system stated that the necessary power for an equal exchange was sufficient, and given Simon's current state, the power of the Philosopher's Stone was used. The independent transmutation began. Simon, unconscious and under the control of the Philosopher's Stone, raised his hand. With a single movement of his fingers, he created something that even the unknown constellation saw with wonder. He received a message of the birth of an artifact that had never existed before. The original owner, an unknown constellation, awakened from his slumber and turned his attention to the Simon. Constellation became enraged, not realizing how the man was able to recreate his foolish father's legacy for the first time. As Simon lay unconscious, he woke up to a message. You have attracted the attention of a celestial being and received 1,000 achievement points. He had also caught the attention of an unregistered constellation in the galactic arena, earning him the title, the one who gets outside attention. Simon wasn't sure what had happened, but he knew one thing. He had definitely fought back against that scoundrel. His eyes slowly closed as he looked at Malsuk's head. After death, as usual, the next thing that happens is waking up and looking around. Simon immediately stood up, realizing he was in his apartment. He wondered if those blood-red eyes he had encountered were just a mind game. He felt that death was near. That distant feeling still lingered. Then he heard the phone ringing, picked it up, and was surprised to see the phone. The nations that remained afloat were the United States and China, but even there chaos reigned. That's why his phone was thrown away a long time ago. He was also surprised to see that it was 2030. He wondered if he had traveled 11 years back in time. He was shocked to find that he was 28 years old again. It then became clear that the Philosopher's Stone had taken control of his body and created something unknown. He wondered if that was what had brought him back in time, but that wasn't all it was. The feeling was different from the past. Although he was 28 years old again and back in the past, he still didn't feel happy. At that time, he was going through a hard time due to the magical disability he received from the accident. He had to wear glasses because his eyesight was poor. His senses were impaired, But now the oppressive feeling of oppression due to the lack of magic was completely gone, so he decided to find out what was going on. He then activated the status window. He now had the title Alchemy Pioneer, but more surprising was his new attribute, Philosopher's Stone. Even though it was unstable, he was surprised to see that instead of the magic parameter, Philosopher's Stone, was now listed. "What about the Philosopher's Stone on your chest?" Simon asked. He wondered if it had turned into a trait through attribution. Either way, the Philosopher's Stone seemed to fulfill his wish. He couldn't hold back his laughter. He had never expected a day like this to come. The magical disability that had been like shackles restraining him all his life was now gone. Knowing this, he couldn't stay still, so he got up to get a drink. He took a beer from the fridge, opened it, and took a sip. He told himself that the headache from the movements due to the magic disability had disappeared, and it wasn't the only thing that had changed. All of his characteristics had also returned to their original state. Moreover, he could now taste the real flavor of beer. The average for level 1 was 10 in all parameters, and he was only 1 unit lower. Parameter 10 was something only super beginners had, but to his surprise, he saw that he had a parameter 10. Furthermore, it was no longer magic, but affinity. He remembered how the system had informed him that the magic parameter had been converted into a unique parameter, affinity. He had also obtained the achievement, possessing a unique parameter. He thought it was amazing because now he had a unique parameter, and he was at level 1. In his past life, only a few players had unique parameters, and most of them, like Si-hyuk and Jung-ri Chu, had risen to high levels. No one knew what happened to the others. By the way, he wondered what was even going on. He had over 1 million achievement points. He didn't know where they came from, but decided to think about it after opening the achievement store. He then clicked a button to look at the titles he had gotten. He saw many titles, but the one that caught his attention was Alchemy Pioneer, a growth title given to the alchemist who synthesized all the mythical elements of alchemy. With that title, he was getting a small affinity bonus. Simon was surprised. He thought it was incredible, since it was a class-related title and a growth title besides. He smirked slightly as he thought of Malsuk, who, as a relatively late player among the higher ranks, was able to rule thanks to a fraudulent title obtained from the celestial demon constellation. Now, he had something like that as well. He decided to look at the other titles to see what else he had gotten. He also earned the title of the one who gets outside attention, given to those who have received outside attention. No one knew if it was luck or bad luck, but it was something incredible. He couldn't remember when he had gotten such a title. Outside attention? He thought curiously. What did the system mean by outside? Was it something else? He decided not to think about it. After all, a title was better than nothing, and most importantly, his magic had been restored, so he decided to try out his skills. He had first thought to take apart the ignition formula, then convert it into the correct magical form and use the affinity, but it dissipated. He was disappointed, but he had expected it. Although it was the same magical world, he wondered if it was possible to use magic with his new power. He opened a drawer, took out a piece of chalk, and thought it would be different if he drew a magic circle. He had originally planned to draw a magic circle. He started drawing, but then the Philosopher's Stone suddenly rebelled. It turned out that his body was rejecting this method. Simon realized that this was the Philosopher's Stone's reaction. The method he was going to use was recognized by the stone as ineffective. That was why he rebelled. Simon wondered how the Philosopher's Stone had changed since he had gotten it. He remembered the methods the stone had used in the past, when Simon was unconscious. Now, instead of drawing a circle, he lifted his fingers, closed his eyes, and focused on what he wanted to create. He thought of a spear similar to the one Zhang Richu had used. The stronger the ability or additions to it, the better. The price for this, he decided to make his affinity. He snapped his fingers to realize what he had planned, but felt a painful backlash from the Philosopher's Stone that made him scream in pain. The system reported that the affinity was insufficient to achieve the desired result, and the unstable Philosopher's Stone was looking for another approach, utilizing what the Simon had. In its unstable state, the stone required 1 million achievement points to recover. Simon was shocked by the stone's absurd demand, but calmed down. He thought that the Philosopher's Stone had already cured his magical disability and sent him 11 years into the past. Although it seemed like a waste, he decided to trust the stone. After all, it had already proven its worth. He pressed the Yes button, spending 1 million achievement points, which completely stabilized the Philosopher's Stone. Simon was overjoyed, for now alchemy would be much easier. He decided to try again, but there was no response. Another message said that the affinity was still not enough to achieve the desired result. This infuriated him. Although he was a bit disappointed, He remembered how, even in a desperate situation, having a magical disability, he was able to create a mythical weapon, so there was no chance that he couldn't create a simple spear with his new powers. A new message has appeared. The Philosopher's Stone requires 500 achievement points to establish an equal exchange. He was asked if he wanted to continue. Simon sarcastically remarked that apparently 1,000,000 points wasn't enough, but he had decided to continue. Now he tried again, hoping that the points invested would pay off. He snapped his fingers, and a sudden bolt of lightning shot through the window and into the ground. Simon was surprised himself, for it nearly tore his legs off. Then he received a message. An unknown constellation is watching you. At the same time, somewhere in an unknown place, in a room filled with masked men, Simon received a message. The constellation Hermes has noticed the sudden appearance of lightning from Olympus. Also, the constellation Athena has taken notice. Many constellations noticed it. Simon wondered why the constellations were suddenly interested in him. The Olympic constellations were shocked by the marks left by the lightning and began to fuss. However, the three remained calm. Among them was the ruler of Olympus, the constellation Zeus, who showed great interest in Simon. Simon was surprised that constellations had backed off because of the traces left behind. He wondered if it had something to do with the title, one who attracts outside attention. Furthermore, he didn't realize the chaos this spear had caused. He looked at the spear emitting lightning, grabbed it, and electric shocks went through his body. As he held the spear, he received a message. The name of the spear is Astropha. It's a fake, containing only 10% of the original's power. This is the spear of Zeus, ruler of Olympus. It can control lightning, but for some reason its full power is not available. Simon was surprised that it was indeed Astropha. He remembered that the Astropha was the primary weapon of Alexander, the Lightning Emperor. Even after losing his affiliation, Alexander remained a strong, high-ranking player. Moreover, he used a spear whose power could rival the lightning magic of a great magician. Simon couldn't believe that he had created such a weapon, but even his fake version of it destroyed everything around him. After all, it was only a fake. Simon thought that Zeus was only showing interest now, but hadn't offered sponsorship yet. There was nothing strange about it, though. He thought for a moment, come to think of it, the system didn't exactly say that creation was impossible. It only said that the affinity was insufficient to achieve the desired result. So, if I can meet the affinity requirements, will I be able to create a true Astropha? Simon smirked. This was so amazing. His magic had been restored. He had traveled back 11 years in time, and now, with an equal exchange, he believed it was possible to create even a mythical weapon. Indeed, alchemy is an insane ability. To his surprise, the spear began to fade and eventually disappeared. He thought it was a rollback of transmutation, and now his achievement points were gone. He was very disappointed and almost cried. After all, he had given 500 points for the spear. For a level 1 like him, 500 points was a huge luxury. But he calmed down, for the spear really did have insane power. Although he felt empty and angry about the points spent, he received a message from the system. Simon received a message. The Philosopher's Stone has minimized the rollback, and you are getting 50 achievement points back. Simon was surprised that the stone was giving him back transmutation points based on his level and rank. He opened the status window and clicked on the Special Attributes tab. The Philosopher's Stone was now at level 1, rank F. Simon was surprised because before, there was no level in the status window and the rank was only indicated by a question mark. He wondered if it had something to do with attribution and going back in time. Then he decided to ask the Philosopher's Stone 2 questions, whether something had changed because of attribution, and whether the stone's growth depended on himself. The Philosopher's Stone responded. A little later, while cleaning the room, Simon pondered, mages use spells, even in alchemy. Transmutation materials and magic circles are needed now. Putting it away, he didn't expect that drawing a magic circle without a draft would be so easy. He was happy, because this is a whole new level compared to ordinary affinity. It's a real breakthrough in alchemy and the magic world. With that, he quickly tidied up the room. Thanks to the Philosopher's Stone, he was able to learn a new method, and with his current level of alchemy, he thought it would be easy to pass the training. It will start today at 5 p.m., he thought, looking at his watch. He can't forget this day, the 17th of January, 2030, 17 o'clock. This is the training that will help him become a true arena player, and the day he will receive his first challenge. He thought it was ironic. Why did I come back exactly on the day of the training challenge? He thought. Then it was a battle for territory. He was so weak that he couldn't even set foot in the occupied area before his head was pierced by an arrow. But now he was no longer afraid, for he had alchemy. He picked up his phone, remembering that he had gotten a message earlier. They were messages from his brother and Yu-jun. Samoon felt a little embarrassed. After all, he was Shi-hyuk's older brother in name only. Samoon smiled slightly as he read the message. His brother was excited about getting into the academy. He received a diamond rank and another special attribute. Now he had 3 of them, but he didn't know how to use them yet. Another message asked Simon if he had seen the sunrise, and remarked that being a senior was hard. No time to go anywhere. The messages were many, over 100. My brother was such a cheerful guy, Simon thought. He didn't know then how much his brother was suffering inside. Now, after going back in time, he knew that the target of the Galactic Arena was his younger brother, and he can change everything from now on. But first of all, it was important to improve their brotherly relationship. He was shy, not knowing what to write, since he had nothing to say. After sending a short message, he was surprised to see a message from Yu-jun and remembered that this person was also alive. His hand trembled and he sat down, gripped by anxiety. Simon took a deep breath, calming down. The tragic events of the past hadn't happened yet. He could change them. No, he must change them. At that moment, a system message appeared. Congratulations, you have been selected for the training arena. Prepare for the challenge. 9 minutes and 59 seconds left in the draft. If he had a device to access the arena, he needed to activate it now. Looking at the message, Simon firmly decided this time he wouldn't be someone who lived without magic and failed. He would change everything right now. The study accepted all players. Today's tutorial mode, Dominance. Participants, 100. Simon had already entered the game. He looked around and realized it was the jungle map. Now, he was completely sure he had really gone back in time. The system explained the rules. Earn points by capturing zones or eliminating other players. The training began. Simon hasn't been in the arena for a long time. His original plan? Stay in the shadows and get to the top. But that plan quickly collapsed. New message. The constellation Zeus is watching you closely. Simon frowned. This was new. It hadn't happened last time. Then another message popped up. Zeus has given you a task. The mission window opened, and with it, the support menu. What? Assignment? Is that even possible? Usually they only open up after the training is completed. Task. Take the first place in dominance mode. Reward. 1,000 achievement points. Simon grinned. Of course, the Lord of Olympus won't accept anything below first place. But 1,000 points just for learning? That's too steep an offer. We have to win. He glanced up and jokingly tossed, "Hey Zeus, why don't we throw in another 100 just for fun?" A sharp cold stare from above silenced him. All right, you greedy god," muttered Simon, walking away. And in another part of the map, the real hunt has begun. The man collapsed with an arrow through his throat. His killer laughed. The easy kills are always the most satisfying. He calmly took the victim's gear, admiring the trophies. That's the level. Even the consumables on these guys are top-notch. The name of the killer? Kim Min-young, a former student of the academy, now a member of the Holy Trinity Guild. The guild ordered him to simply survive and return, but that wasn't enough for him. He was kicked out of the academy, thrown away like unwanted trash. But he wasn't going to remain an ordinary fighter. They will regret giving up such talent. At this time, Simon was walking along the forest path and stopped. That's it. The creek in front of him awakened a memory. In a tree, hiding among the branches, Min-young spotted him. A smile slid across his face. That's lucky. A guy with no armor, no weapons, weak, perfect free frag. Thanks for the free kill, he whispered, putting energy on the arrow and releasing it. The arrow went straight at Simon. Clap. Barely moving his finger, he used the water and smashed the arrow in the air. Min-young froze. What? How? Simon smirked. Just the man I was looking for. In the past, Min-young killed him with one shot, but this time it's going to be different. Simon attacked, blasting the tree, but Min-young managed to jump away, landing on the ground. He quickly regained his balance and grabbed his bow. The enemy is a mage. Unforeseen. But he wasn't afraid, as the mage seemed to have no equipment whatsoever. The battle was just beginning. Min-young tried to fire a shot, but Simon beat him to it. He fended off the attack and immediately retaliated with a series of punches. However, Min-young survived. Simon grinned. That's a good move. You even aimed right at my head, but you still survived. Well, at least it's less frustrating to lose to the likes of you. Min-young is freaking out. Shut up, you bastard. What are you even talking about? He growled and rushed to the attack. Pulling out his paired daggers, he parried Simon's blow. But Simon only grinned. So you have a B-rank skill? Fast reaction time? Min-young froze. How did you know? But the next moment, Simon pierced his chest with a spike of sand. Min-young coughed up blood. His voice trembled. You? You're from the Academy of the Awakened? Simon stepped closer. I wouldn't have been accepted there in my life. And without further ado, finished him off. He sat down next to it, and examining the corpse concluded. A newcomer from some top guild. Judging by the expensive gear, this guy's probably using a high-end VR equivalent, so there won't be much of a shock in reality. But if it were an official match, he'd die for real. Simon hesitated for a moment. He came in here with no virtual equipment. If this were an official arena, losing would mean not just quitting the game, but actual death. But that wasn't the worst of it. If the arena wasn't cleaned up, it launched a disaster in the country it was tied to. The same was true for dungeons and raids. All the remaining monsters were breaking out into the real world. This is why the number of rankers in official arenas has become an indicator of a state's strength. But Korea lost. They failed to stop the catastrophe and collapsed, as did many small countries. But that hasn't happened yet, and it's not going to happen now. Simon pushed away the unnecessary thoughts and opened the tutorial ranking table. First place, Kang Ho Young, 2 kills, 4% zone capture. Second place, Lee Se-hyun, 1 kill, 4% zone capture. What the hell? Simon thought. It's been quite some time since the tutorial started, but there are almost no kills. The answer was obvious. They're all campers. The best way to survive at this level is to keep your head down. And it's not surprising. While this is just a tutorial, picking players by MMR sent them into the gold level of domination. This is where the top rookies gathered strong skills, high stats, great gear. The more you have at stake, the more careful you become. Simon flipped through the list further. Someone has already entered the capture zone. The game was starting for real. If they only had 4% dominance points, then they're not there for long. In this mode, capturing zones is more important than kills. Simon decided to use the time to his advantage, to improve his crafting skills and score a couple more frags. It's time to mop up all the campers, he said. Hours later, the guy was running as hard as he could, breathing heavily. That psycho. He's a monster. But before he could escape, Simon's sandy spike pierced him through. Damn, he's really fast. Even in full armor, Simon muttered, examining the body. He must have had a skill related to speed. If he hadn't attacked first, Simon wouldn't have even noticed him. At this moment, someone crept up from behind with a dagger in his hand and abruptly rushed forward to attack. Simon spotted him at the last moment and killed him lightning fast with a silent spell. Those hyenas, always looking for free frags. He exhaled irritably. A system message appeared. Crafting skill has been upgraded. Philosopher's Stone has gained a new level. Simon frowned. Really? Stats go up just for repetition of crafting? It was still okay at low levels, but the fact that the Philosopher's Stone pumped was unexpected. Well, at least the campers were good for something, he grinned. With this kill, he already has 11 frags. No more stabbing in the back. It's time to move on. The captured zone is just around the corner. On the way, he suddenly noticed something and hid sharply behind a tree. There's a pile of dead bodies in front of him. What the hell? And this isn't even the takeover area. He opened the arena table. First place, Kang Ho Young, 7 kills, 60% dominance. Second place, Lee Se-hyun, 5 kills, 60% dominance. Third place, Park Hak-seo, 5 kills, 59% dominance. Fourth place, Kim Jae-won, 3 kills, 59% dominance. He's got 11 murders himself. Simon squinted his eyes. The dominance points of the first 4 are almost identical, and they've all been on top since the beginning of the tutorial. So that's it. They work as a team. In a tutorial? Really? That's a direct violation of the rules. Simon exhaled, disappointedly. Okay if they just wanted to get to the top, but such dirty tricks in training. He looked around. Where are they? And then I saw it. They're holed up in the tackle zone. Tanks in front. Archers cover from afar. Swordsmen hold the flanks. Perfect defense. You can't get to them. Simon didn't want to waste the mission rewards, but now he had no choice. If they decided to play dirty, he would do the same. Lee Se-hyun, the archer, was surveying the area. Do you see something? Tank asked her. There's no one, she replied. Tank grinned. What, you're short on mana, so you're stupid? Clairvoyance uses mana, not aura. One of the players corrected him. Really? Said the tank. It's not bad, of course, to farm frags without wasting mana. Se-hyun sighed tiredly. What's in it for me? You're the one whining that you don't have enough kills. Because it pisses me off, he grumbled. Everyone's already killed 5 people, and I'm still at 0. She only laughed. So it's your fault. Who stopped you from choosing a normal role over a tank? Her words angered him, and they began to bicker. That's enough, the leader interrupted them. You have more than 60% dominant, so now you can decide who you want to kill. Hearing this, the tank immediately cheered up. Sehun looked at the leader. Why don't we just get out of here? There's almost no one left in the zone, and just sitting around is boring. He was silent for a moment. What? Are you worried about Kim Simon? Sion smirked. That's the problem. He shook his head. Some lefty dude has already scored 11 frags. So? Sion shrugged her shoulders. I know all the newcomers of our guild, and there's no such thing among them. Exactly, the leader muttered quietly. Look, she waved it off. There were only weak players here. We didn't get thrown against the tops. That Kim Samoon is just running around killing the wounded. If he was really strong, he would have come to us long ago. Better hold formation and keep scouting. We've practiced too much to screw up. The leader nodded. She's right. After failing in the last tutorial, they had practiced for a long time, and the Chongle Guild had even provided them with equipment. Now they're in the top as planned. Relax. Sion grinned. We're the team, and he's just a noob. She suddenly fell abruptly silent. Her eyes flashed blue light, clairvoyance. Enemy. She drew the bowstring lightning fast and fired toward the bushes, but the arrow didn't make it. Simon smashed her with a sand spike spell. Sion narrowed her eyes in surprise. Everyone else tensed up as well. Is he a mage? Someone asked worriedly. Simon smirked. I wanted to hide, but your B-rank clairvoyance still found me. That's not bad. Sion frowned. How did you figure out what skill I have? It's just that I know the player's traits well. So that's how. She drew her bow again, about to show him that he didn't know everything. But the leader raised his hand. Hold on. He stepped forward, his aura pressing down on everyone around him. Looking directly at Simon, he uttered, Are you Kim Simon?